everyone, welcome back to QSR Nation, your go-to source for food service marketing and business strategies for success.
Welcome back to another video version of QSR Nation. Today, as always, we have Josh, Beth, Tony, and Grant here, not at our own homes, and we also have Carrie Luxem on with us today. Welcome, Carrie. Welcome back, I should say.
Hi, thanks, guys.
Yeah, so this one really is all about you, Carrie, and letting us know how we can respond to COVID-19.
Oh boy, that's a lot of pressure. I thought we were just hanging out for your birthday today, Josh. That's what I thought we were doing. But hey, I guess if you want to talk business.
Yeah, we'll have birthday beers after this.
All right, perfect. Yeah, so, I'm excited to hang out with you guys today and talk about this, this crazy time that we're going through. And certainly we can talk through if you have some questions, but the reality with this whole COVID-19 thing and as it relates to small businesses and restaurateurs, it's just moving and so fast, and there's so many different things going on. There's a lot of emotions with how are these restaurateurs and business people going to survive this, and then there's all of the the regulations and response acts and employees being furloughed and laid off, and so there's a lot going on, and we can certainly focus on whatever you would like to focus on today. But in terms of I can give some general, feedback on some of the things going on. But the problem is things change so quickly. So one thing I'm going to be doing on my social platforms is sort of keeping my followers updated with these things that are happening so fast. Even like the I was talking to some of the quote experts yesterday about some of the SBA loans and different things that are going to help people, the reliefs and the bailouts and stuff. That stuff, nobody has experience with it yet. It's all kind of being put out there right now. And it's as this is happening, things change. So I think it's just really good to have great resources in all of these different areas of what's happening with COVID-19 and just sort of stay up to date on those things. But what would you guys like to focus on, as we get this going here? Is there something specifically you want me to talk through?
Well, I think, go ahead, Beth.
Oh, sorry. I was saying, so what is actually the number one question that you are getting right now, Carrie, other than when is this going to end? But what is everyone's biggest fear when it comes to being a restaurant operator?
Well, I mean, that is such a great question. And I think depending on why they're coming to me, I mean, if it's we're connecting with our clients and they're just really worried, it's like, really, how are we going to survive this? And I certainly don't have the answer. It just depends. I think that my personal opinion is, I think the businesses that are already strong are going to come out okay. And, it's not going to be easy. And I'm seeing a lot that have not been strong, and they're not, they're really struggling to make it through this even more so. And I mean, we're seeing restaurants close at, obviously on a temporary basis, but also on a permanent basis. And, so I think there's a lot of discussion, not necessarily directly questions asked to me about survival always, but what are some things that I'm doing as a business owner? And, and I think that as we kind of go through this, it's easy to just to really, get down and be focused on all that's going wrong. And I'm very inspired by so many small business people and restaurateurs and clients and members of ours that are being very creative in how they are going about building, or surviving this time. They're researching and taking the time to look at different reliefs and bailouts, their loans or whatever. They're really being good to their people. They're trying to stay optimistic. They're sort of taking one day at a time and, really trying to, step up and make things happen. But more on the kind of the HR side of things, I mean, I think there is a lot of questions around the Family First Coronavirus Response Act and how that works and what that's going to mean for small business owners and restaurateurs. and, you know, really understanding that. And, you know, and so I think that would probably be something that people are curious about. You know, what is it? How does it work? What are the questions that we're getting are so great. Like, there's so many really great questions about this, you know, FFCRA, as they're calling it, or Family First Response Act. You know, and essentially what this is this is something that's going to be effective as of April 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2020. And that the date was April 2nd. That's what we were communicating last week. It was changed to April 1st. And essentially there's two aspects to this. There's an emergency family and medical leave that's an amendment to the current FMLA. And then there's an emergency paid sick leave. And basically the gist of it is the emergency family and medical leave is meant for people, employees who are not able to work due to needing to take care of their children, children under the age of 18 years old whose schools have closed, or they don't have the child care available due to the coronavirus. So, you know, and so who can take this leave under this new act? It's employees who've been employed with their employer for at least 30 days who meet the criteria that I just mentioned. And, you know, and so this is meant for private employers that have under 500 employees. And, you know, so some business owners say, well, what if I only have a couple of employees? So there are some exemptions if you have under 50 employees, and sort of this is where the regulations are still forthcoming. And, you know, but if you do have under 50 employees, like I have under 50 employees, I could potentially be exempt. But again, this is sort of being developed. This is developing sort of as we speak. So, you know, and then there's, and I'm going to be posting a lot of information, kind of these specific questions about, you know, about how much the employees will receive and how long they're permitted to take a leave and all those things, you know, as we make sure that we have the correct information. We'll be posting either videos or posts kind of outlining that. So that's the first part of this act. And then the second part of the act is the emergency paid sick leave. And this is for people that are impacted, you know, they're quarantined or isolated, they're sick from the coronavirus, they're experiencing symptoms, and, you know, they're seeking a diagnosis for it, and they're able to, you know, they would fall under the sick leave part if an employee is caring for a child because of the closure as well. And so you'll see I'm talking, that's the first act was the same as what I said with this. So there's some of this that kind of, you know, they sort of go together, and that's where it gets very, very confusing. So, and then again, I will be posting like who can take this leave. As an employer, do you have to comply? What if you have, you know, over 500 employees? Do you have to comply? Under 500 employees? So there's all of these things. A lot of this stuff is out there and is outlined, and I can actually share with you guys so you can post with the podcast that we're doing, or the video podcast we're doing. You can post a link. We've got this outlined sort of simply. We can put the dates on it and make sure that they have the most updated information on that. But essentially, it really is just it's just new regulations to protect people that are impacted by coronavirus.
Awesome. So Carrie, I know we've mentioned it before, but where exactly can they find all of this information and posts? It's on carrieluxem.com, also your LinkedIn page, your Facebook page, all of this?
Yeah, no, I don't really put this stuff isn't being put on my website, but it is. I am on LinkedIn. I'm putting it on Facebook. I'm putting it on Instagram. And, you know, and if your listeners reach out to me, and, you know, we do some, you know, newsletters and different things like that. But so we keep people updated through the newsletters that we have. We have this membership platform that we keep people updated. But I would say the best bet, the most consistent is LinkedIn. And if they don't have LinkedIn, just set up a little account and, you know, just keep your eye on my LinkedIn page, and I will do my best. I'm actually going to create what I was just kind of going through. I'm going to try to create like a very, again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not trying to be, we have legal resources that are sort of helping and feeding this stuff to me as it happens. And I want to be able to communicate it in a way that is not lawyer speak, that's real business speak. And I'm going to do that in little videos and little, kind of text posts on LinkedIn and my other social platforms as much as I can.
Perfect.
So Carrie, well, I know that's a lot to take in. A lot of businesses are going to have to spend some time really diving into it and finding out what that means for them, specifically, especially with the restaurants. And this is a segment I'll talk about right now, but especially in those restaurant businesses that are 50 or fewer employees. That's a lot of the mom and pops out there, and so, one of the things we've talked about, internally is, trying to keep that positive spin on things, and to look at, what can you do during this time? We've mentioned, I think, taking a little bit of time on social media to let folks kind of see around your restaurant, know how you get started, your backstory, develop that personalization to help that kind of connection, if you will, get deeper and broader during this time when people are stuck in front of the phones more than ever right now, and their desktops, laptops, etc. But taking an opportunity to really tell your brand story, through the process, and let your staff be a part of it, and help maybe put some faces with the whole business as a whole. This is talk about maybe it's voted in the newspaper voted the best server in town, et cetera, if they have like a Reader's Choice type of situation, and how long they've been with you, et cetera. I mean, what are some like positive things? We have the big, heavy, daunting stuff, obviously. The financials are critical and crucial. But what are some of the positive, maybe more lighthearted things that you would recommend that restaurateurs right now just kind of maybe grab a hold of to help carry them through?
Yeah. Well, I think that what you said, and it seems so obvious, and people are like, yeah, it's real nice of you, Carrie or Anthony, to tell me to stay positive, right, in this crazy time. But if you can keep your mind clear and you can understand the entire world is going through this, that everybody is, everybody's restaurants are not able to be open right now. And I'm worried about my business, but what I'm trying to do is trying to stay optimistic and know that there's going to be some things that happen in the world, hopefully, that are going to help me get through this time. And to your point, and my husband says this all the time, I'll start to worry, and he's like, you're worried about stuff you can't control. So stay focused on the things you can control, and it'll just be better. And I think when you make a conscious effort to do that, so many great things can happen. And I think you talked about, highlighting your brand. I mean, what I'm really staying focused on as a small business owner, forget that I'm an HR person for a minute. I have a team of people that are relying on their paychecks, that need, that need to take care of their families. And I feel the pressure with that when I don't know. I've got all of these clients that their restaurants have closed. They don't have any money coming in. So I just have to, first and foremost, my goals for my team are to make sure that they're physically and mentally healthy. So I've got to stay in contact with them. I've got to make sure that they're not feeling isolated or out on an island, or that, I try my hardest to make sure that they are communicated to so they don't start to think their life is going to fall apart. And I mean, I have sent videos via text to them. We get on a call, we do conference calls that, where we try to lighten it up. I keep them posted with the realities of the clients that have not been able to move forward with us and that are closing. And I talk about what I'm planning to do in terms of keeping us going and that sort of thing. And we're keeping very focused on the clients that we have. So I'm really communicating to them because, truthfully, I care about my people as your CEO cares about you, like family. And I think you got to first and foremost just really think about your employees and your customers and the people that you are interacting with on a regular basis. they're all going through this too. So if you can stand up and be the positive and shining light, even though you're scared and even though you're worried, I think that helps tremendously. And then when you have that, you know, when I clear my brain and I do that and I feel that and I feel my team is being positive, then we can focus on things that are going to improve. That when this does change and when we do start to reopen these restaurants, which by the way is going to happen, hopefully sooner than later, but it may take a while, but things are going to turn around, then we can just stay focused on rebuilding those things, or, you know, really having a clear mind to go through the process to get an SBA loan or whatever those things might be. And, you know, and I've been very, like I said to you earlier, I've been very inspired by watching how my clients have really just risen to the occasion and figured out how to be creative. I mean, I've got full service restaurant groups that have never done delivery or takeout, and they've turned it around and they're trying to have some fun with it. They're adding different things to their menu. They're trying to sell. They have a lot of really big fans. They're trying to sell the gear that they have, you know, make some money by selling their hats or whatever it may be. They're doing some fun stuff to get people to buy gift cards. You know, they're trying to really do this drive-through thing, or, you know, not the full service, but the quick service. They're doing the drive-through thing well. They're really, you know, they're really on social media encouraging people to share their posts. And again, going back to it, just the things that you can control. And I think there's all kinds of leaders and people in this world that are setting up really amazing things to help feed people that are unemployed, to, you know, fundraising, GoFundMe campaigns to help the little restaurants or business that they're so passionate about, and just trying to stay laser focused on those things, I think is really important.
Well, I think you brought up some really crucial, you know, points there. There's been a lot of businesses pushed to innovate and create right now, and, you know, really get out of their comfort zone, and, you know, but they just got to stay positive, have some fun with it. It's a little crazy, it's uncomfortable, but this whole situation is, you know.
Yep.
Yep.
It absolutely is. And, you know, and so like with me, I'm trying to do that. I'm putting together, you know, for my company, like, what can we do to be creative and maybe look at this as in the long, you know, it's not the short game. You know, my clients that are closing all of their restaurants, we're not just saying, okay, you're not our client anymore. I mean, we're staying close with them. They understand that we're a business too, but we're doing what we can to support them and that sort of thing. We're offering up a lot of advice. We're really trying to do that. We're you know, hand holding some of our clients that are really struggling, that have closed. I mean, we've got a client that closed, you know, 60 locations. That 40 of them permanently is the word on the street, you know. So how are we going to help them? They're really struggling, and how are they going to pay their vendors? And so, you know, I'm again, as a business owner, I'm just trying to keep these relationships going. Obviously, I need to have revenue coming in so I can pay the people on my team. I'm looking at a lot of different options. You know, again, there's all these new things coming to light, these bailouts and SBA loans and different things. And I know if they're going to be essentially available to me, they're going to also be available to hopefully some of my clients, and they're going to get back in the groove, and hopefully this economy will start to turn around. But I mean, we're in a, you know, we've got over 3 million people on unemployment right now. You know, it's very, very hard to stay positive and to be creative and to figure out how to move forward. But the ones that can figure out how to do that, I think, are the ones that are going to come out of this thing and be okay.
You know, they say that the most important part of real estate you ever own is the 6 inches between your ears. And, you know,
right.
You know, keeping that positive mindset that, you know, yeah, I'm a realist. I always get accused of being negative. I'm a realist. But that doesn't mean that you can't stay positive if you're a realist. You know, you got to, you know, look at, okay, so this, you know, this path is blocked. How do I still get around the mountain? If I can't get over it, you know, how do I get around it? Do I dig through it? Do I walk around? I mean, so there's different aspects and angles to take. And you know, I have a couple of my friends that are facing, you know, one of them had to lay off 25 of her staff the other day. At gut wrenching because of the fact that these are her family. They're not just her employees or whatever, and she understands what that is going to mean to their families. And so it's just, it's a rough time, but, she's staying positive with it. She's like, hey, look, if I can do, X, Y, and Z here, there's a chance I can bring half of them back in, maybe 2 weeks. And then I'll work on the plan to bring the other half back. So, I mean, yeah, it's stressful, and she's like, hey, if we close, we may not reopen, and that's the reality. She said, so, she's trying to find every avenue that she can right now to make sure that there is an open restaurant, and it's carry out, it's curbside. She can't do drive-through in her location. So, but she's got to be creative. She's got to stay positive because, her focus, like you said, is long term. She's like, okay, this is my goal when I come out of this. And the thought is I'm coming out of this, but here are my steps to get through. Right now, I had to lay people off, but in 2 weeks, maybe I can bring some back. And then maybe in 2-3 weeks after that, maybe I can bring some more back. And, it'll change day to day, but, keeping that mindset straight and positive and focused and being nimble, I think right now more than ever, innovation, creativity, but also being, nimble, flexible, to move with that. And then also being okay if what you planned didn't work. We talk about, I think at the Grit Summit last year, everyone heard talk from our CEO about, grit and what it stood for in that last T being the tolerance of failure. And I think right now, more than ever, American businesses have to understand that tolerance of failure is going to be okay. If plan B doesn't work, move to plan C. There's 26 letters in the alphabet, and you can go alphanumeric if you need to. I mean, just keep at it, keep pushing. What works, what doesn't work, doesn't. But it's okay either way. Just keep pushing forward. And
absolutely.
I really get worried sometimes at some of the comments I'm looking at on social media about some of these restaurateurs. Some of them are already, in such a heavy panic mode because they weren't financially equipped to handle a 2-week shutdown. And that's not saying that they were ill prepared or they're bad business people. I mean, that's just a reality of this industry. Cash flow is king. And if you don't have the cash flow, you suffocate the business. So, as someone looking, that may have to look to the restructure things, especially if they have employees, what are some resources that they could look at? Because a lot of them don't have HR. Like they are the HR. They are their people success department. And as they're looking at this and saying, man, I don't know how to navigate out through this right now. What are some other areas? I know we mentioned like your LinkedIn and Facebook. But are there any other areas that you'd recommend folks just look at and pivot to just to help them get a footing for what they need to go through with their team members?
You mean in terms of human resources stuff and the legal stuff?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is there's information overload out there in the world. So I think you've got to really understand what those resources are. So go to, if you have a legal counsel that maybe you have used or somebody that you're aware of. I follow a lot of different great sort of restaurant industry focused legal firms or, payroll companies that put out amazing blogs and different things like that. And, there's just a ton of them. And a lot of times it's just if you have somebody that's sort of in your circle, if you will. I mean, I work with the people that help me on the back end of my membership platform. They put out articles. I get articles from all kinds of different law firms, but there's those few that I really look at, and they speak the way that I learn. They're real simple in their communication and that sort of thing. So I think in terms of resources, I mean, everybody is trying to pump out this information. And I think that for me, I try to sprinkle a little bit of inspiration with kind of motivation plus the simplicity. I try to simplify some of the HR things that are confusing to small business owners and to to restaurateurs. And I am, you guys know my husband is a restaurateur as well. He's a great resource for me in terms of, how I communicate things and what the reality is in the restaurants that he's operating. So I think to answer your question, I mean, there's just a ton. You just have to really kind of talk with your network, find out what they're using to get the information that they need. Do they have a resource? Do they have an influencer, if you will? Do they have somebody that they feel has the kind of information that you want? But in terms of like the regulations around coronavirus, there's a company called Littler. It's Litter, I think, and there's I can't remember the name of the law firm. We just found some law firm out of California that does a really nice job of communicating this stuff, very frequently. But again, and here's what I'll tell you, there's so much information and there's so much confusion. I think that probably a lot of these business owners get this stuff, but they don't even know what it is they're supposed to really understand. And there's so much that it's hard to really wrap your brain around what you're reading, So it's like, all right, so April 1st, this Families First Coronavirus Response Act is happening. What does that mean to your business? What does that mean to you as a business owner? That's what I'm going to be posting here in the next few days. I'm going to really try to break it down very simply and help people understand what it means to them. And some of the things, like I said, I've been getting some really, really great questions, like this, well, what happens in the summertime when your kids don't have school? Well, I still have to pay for it then. There's like questions like that if my person can't come to work because they have to stay home with their kids, but it's summertime, they don't typically have school. So there's all kinds of questions that, like, obviously I'm hearing for the first time, and we work with the resources that we have and try to break it down simply. And sometimes there might be answers immediately, and sometimes it may take a while for people to the acts to be updated and resources to be communicated in a way that makes it make sense. And that's not just in the HR regulation. That's with all these SBA loans and all that stuff. Everything is developing and happening right now. We're in the thick of it right now. But what I'll say though, Anthony, this is kind of shifting gears a little bit. I do a lot of posts on, I'm writing a second book on soft skills. So I love to talk about this stuff and teach this, but I will tell you, if we try to look at the good that comes out of the bad, the good that comes out of the things that we struggle with, I have seen so many people, because they're actually being forced to use their soft skills, to really understand that they have to communicate to their teams or be, we're in problem solving mode right now. And if you really think of yourself as a problem solver, you'll get the answers to what you need, even if you don't think you have a resource, So I'm really watching how people are stepping up. They're figuring out how to have this positive and optimistic attitude. They're adapting their style and their companies to what's happening. They're really figuring out how to work as a team. They're building these relationships. They're communicating with each other or their teams. And it's just they always say, you can learn stuff by being trained, and then you learn by actually doing. Well, we're actually learning how to be better leaders by having to be a better leader, by having to step up and do this. And it's very inspiring. My team alone, I feel like we were already strong. I can already feel that we're stronger. We're coming together. We're really going to do all that we can to come out of this and be stronger in the end. And I think that sometimes you can't teach that stuff. You've got to live it, and we're living it right now.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think it's interesting, Carrie, that we've had guests like you on the podcast before, and guests like Alex Maturi. And it's even something we preach here at PFS Brands. But the first thing that restaurant operators or any business in general really needs to do is take care of their employees first, so that they can take care of their customers. So I think it's interesting that those businesses that, if they were practicing that up to this point, my hope is that they're set up the best. They've laid the best foundation to navigate through this time. And hopefully those are the businesses that will survive. And it'll be interesting to see that businesses that maybe haven't done that so far to this point, maybe if they now have the ability to implement those soft skills and
Yeah.
really take care of their employees, if they can turn the ship around in time and get through this situation, because I have heard of other businesses that are actually losing employees, which is kind of crazy to think about in this time. I don't think people should quit their job because so many are losing their jobs. But even if there's businesses that aren't taking care of their employees, whether it's even simple things like sanitation, not having the proper procedures in check to keep their employees safe, then, those are the businesses that are really going to struggle through all this.
Right. Absolutely. I absolutely agree with you. I think that the business leaders, the CEOs, the, executives, the managers that really understand how to treat people like their family, like how, that level of care that's very much about, being treated like family. They are not afraid to be vulnerable, to stand up, to be open and honest, even when you don't have the answers. I feel like that's where real loyalty comes in. And to get through something like this, you've got to have loyalty, And so I think you're absolutely right. I think the people that have done that well are really kind of even rising up, more in leading by example, because they're seeing that connection. And maybe people that didn't connect it, didn't really connect the building relationships piece or taking care of what culture really is, they're going to, they're being thrown into the middle of it, and they're going to realize that they have to treat people well and try to figure out how to communicate well. And they don't need to know. And that doesn't mean have all the answers. I mean, I will tell you, I have seen so many, even some of the clients that we have that I know are great human beings. They are great people. They really, truly do care about their people because and I've seen it throughout the years, but because they are unsure, they're unclear, they don't have answers, they don't know what's going to happen with their business, they sort of shut down and they don't communicate. And then people feel like, why am I not getting any communication? It's not great. So it's like, that's why I keep telling my clients or the people that follow me, speak up even when you don't have the answers. Talk about the things that are not easy to say to your people. If you do have to, lay them off or furlough them, and talk about what your plans are. Help them figure out how to get unemployment. Provide them a contact in your company that can help walk through that process. They'll get it. They'll understand. I mean, this world is going through so much craziness, but they're going to feel cared for. And I think that is the differentiator between great companies and then ones that are going to struggle through this process.
Right. That's exactly right.
I think it's one thing that our world has completely changed as we know it. And the number one thing that you keep talking about is, it's a whole, other than just taking care of your employees, but it's a whole new level of trust and understanding that, beforehand, you did want to have all of your employees go in and making sure that they are doing all of their tasks every single day. But now it's just a whole other sense of, you have to be independent. You have to be able to trust all of your employees to know that they are doing the right thing and they're making the right choices for you and making sure that your business can still operate. And I think being able to communicate that trust and just understanding that, what, we're here to support you, even though we're not going to be here. We're just here to check in on you. And what can we do? Over communicate, but also be positive, be real, like we've mentioned before. But it's just, we have to understand that our leaders don't know what's going to be happening and we don't know what's happening.
Exactly.
You have to have that balance and understanding and hope that they're there to take care of you. And that's what good leadership and good business owners do.
Absolutely agree with you, Beth. Very well said.
Carrie. Thank you.
So I'm a huge proponent for mom and pops, but there are a couple chains that I do really like. And one of them is Texas Roadhouse. I mention it all the time. I'm having withdrawals. Got to be honest, guys. Haven't been there in a couple of weeks now.
You need that bread.
Some excellent
I do
carry-out
too.
options.
Good stuff.
Yeah, I called them last night. I was like, can I just get some bread? They're like, no, you got to order this right now. And there's a carry-out situation, like,
You're like, this is Anthony. I'm your biggest fan. This is Anthony.
Yeah.
You better bring me some bread.
I tell you, I love it, but one thing that their CEO announced is that, he's not going to take his salary or any bonuses from now on, I think January 7th of 2021, and they're to redirect that salary and bonus money to the frontline employees to keep them employed and open, and his total compensation was reported last year at 1.3 million. So this wasn't like it was a little, CEO compensation, move a little bit. I mean, that was a lot of cash to infuse. It'll burn through quickly at the number of locations and employees they have. But that's kind of something that he was able to do from the top down to infuse some additional cash structure for his employees and say, hey, I legitimately am being transparent that I care about you guys. This is a guy who, still visits stores, and walks through and talks. In Adrian Gossick's new book that he has out that we just read recently, Leading with Gratitude, there's a section there about the Texas Roadhouse CEO and that, how he talks to everyone in the restaurant before he goes and talks to the manager, because he wants to know what the real pulse of everything is. I mean, not everybody can afford to divert their salary or part of it. That's not the point of bringing it up, but
right. But I think, with that specific example, that has gone viral. I mean, that is all over everything, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I think the reason, and I think other CEOs are definitely taking a pay cut, and I see it, but he genuinely cares about his people. And it's not just this one action that shows that. And it's coming back to him tenfold. He's getting all this PR. And again, I think the reason is he is consistently doing these things that show his people that he cares. And so it's just a great connection. It's like, he's not doing it for the PR. He's not doing it to show the world he's a great person, but it's getting him that recognition because he is consistently, I have seen that article about him cutting his salary dozens of times in very different platforms, and I just think it just screams his leadership.
Well, and the thing you said is most key about it is he's consistent. This isn't a one-time wonder. This isn't something he's just doing for the moment. He's always doing these types of things to put his team first because he understands that his company is only as strong as the people serving their consumers walking in. And he gets that. He leads that way. He is very, very transparent with things with his staff. He's accessible. And those are things that a lot of companies right now are a little maybe uncomfortable with because they're having to be more accessible. They're having to there's really two paths they can go down right now. They can be accessible and transparent and truly care about their team and say, look, this is the unfortunate situation we're in. But like you said, here's what we can do. Here's what we're doing now. Here is the plan moving forward. That's, I think, the biggest part that some of these other companies are missing right now. We just had a company in our town that just, without notice, shut a bunch of things down, and this huge backlash. And the fact that, I don't know if a company that does something like that can recover out of a time like this, honestly.
Right.
But, there's no plan forward. There's no help after today when it's your last day. There's no, anything. And to me, that is the biggest thing that every franchisee, every restaurant owner, everyone in this space needs to probably take away is, yes, it's scary. It's okay to be transparent, but more importantly, get a plan together. Communicate that plan. Let your staff know that, hey, maybe I won't be able to bring everyone back. It's just that's the reality, right? But at least communicate it and say, hey, but if you need a reference or if you need help with unemployment paperwork, like you said, here's a resource that I would use if I was going through that myself right now, or here's a resource our company is providing to help you beyond the moment, beyond today. I think that plan, just to give folks a sense of direction, is so key.
It's huge. It's huge. When this all kind of started, we reached out to our clients, our restaurant HR group clients, and we just said, hey, listen, we want to send out a memo to all of your employees, whether they've been furloughed or, they're still actively working. And we want our payroll and benefits specialist or HR generalist to be a single point of contact for them. If they have a question, if they need unemployment help, if they are scared, if they don't know what's happening with their final paycheck, even if we don't have the answers, we want them to be able to call somebody. And that has just really gone over well because, and again, my team is really busy, but they're grateful to be, and they are, wanting to help people. And I think, to your point, the companies that do that, that really just understand this is, like Beth said, I mean, this is a time, this is something, I mean, we have not ever gone through this before, and hopefully we don't ever have to go through something like this again. I'm sure other things will happen, but it's really just about being a good person and setting up resources and putting yourself in the shoes of the people that are losing their jobs or closing their restaurants or whatever it is. It just goes a long way. It's the long game. And again, it's about loyalty. It's about treating people right. And when you do those things, I think you have a better chance of having more success in a business.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And when the long game approach you're doing, you're building up that culture, and we had over 3 million people that filed for unemployment. So when we get out of this eventually, you should have a flood of potential employees.
Right.
Yeah.
I do have one more question real quick. I was told there's no such thing as a stupid question. So, but I was just curious.
I don't know about that.
I'm kidding.
No, but without how quickly all these regulations and stuff are moving, I was curious. So the Families First Coronavirus Act that you've been talking about, is that part of the stimulus package, or are those not related?
They're not related. I don't think they're related. This is a separate thing. I don't know much about the whole stimulus thing. That's a whole nother area that I need to, kind of study, if you will, and start to talk about. That's kind of new on our list. So at this point, we've really just been trying to help our clients understand what this is going to mean. These two different aspects, what that's going to mean come April 1. So. But that's a great point, and it is a great question. And as this develops, the stimulus packages and all these things, we'll try to keep we'll try to keep our communication simple and updated as we kind of go day by day.
Yeah, Grant, you probably won't get any stimulus checks because you make way too much money. So,
you're 100% honest. If the stimulus package just saves a bunch of the mom and pop businesses, it'll be a win.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's what I do worry about, these small independent restaurants. But I think if whether you have an independent, if you're a small business owner, you have a restaurant or two, or you're a little bit larger and you have multi-unit, if you kind of really focus on doing the things that we talked about today in this podcast, taking care of people and looking at it person by person and day by day, and understanding that this is something that is everybody's head is spinning, everybody's worried. There's got to be some relief coming, as we've seen communicated. And again, I think once we can get control of the virus and these restaurants are able to reopen and people are feeling more comfortable, hopefully, we can start to rebuild this as a country, as an industry, and we can move forward. That's my hope.
Yeah, for sure. Great advice. Do you guys have any other questions for Carrie before we let her go?
I don't think so.
I just appreciate you being here. My dogs are just woken up. You'll hear that in the background.
Oh, good timing. Good timing.
We really appreciate you being on the show today, Carrie.
For sure.
Yeah, thank you. And Josh, totally, when they stop recording, I'll sing happy birthday. Okay.
I mean, you can do it now. We can have it on recording.
Just kidding. No. I don't want to offend anybody.
Oh, yeah, we share birthdays.
Yeah. Josh and Jaden both getting older today.
Oh, happy birthday. Very fun. Thank you so much, as always, guys, for having me on your show. I love hanging out with you guys.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Well, definitely everybody check out your LinkedIn profile, Carrie Luxem, and the HR or the restaurant HR group as well. We'll share the links in the video notes so people can easily find your LinkedIn profile. So we appreciate it.
Awesome. Make sure they follow us on all. Follow us on all social media channels. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We'll be posting all of our video podcasts going on. And we'll be doing this until hopefully this ends soon. But we're really enjoying the video side of it, so that way you can see all of our faces and trying to get a little more interactive. But if you have any podcast guests that you would like us to reach out to, or if you have any topics you'd like for us to discuss, be sure to send them to qsrnation@pfsbrands.com. And you can also visit our website at qsrnationpodcast.com, where we have all of our previous podcasts that we're doing, plus the video ones. And we would love to get your feedback.
Yeah. So once again,
leave us a review.
Yeah. Once again, thanks, Carrie and Tony. That background you have is ridiculous. By the way, your head was disappearing most of the time.
Yeah.
All right, guys, for all the listeners and viewers,
thank you.
QSR Nation, thanks, Carrie. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thank you guys very much.
Be sure to join us again for the next episode of QSR Nation.